Welcome to California in Focus. I'm Eliana Kernodle. At $4.60 a gallon, California's average gas prices sit well above the national average. Joining me with more on this story is the Center Square's California reporter, Kenneth Schrupp. Kenneth, what does Governor Gavin Newsom have to say about California's gas prices?
Newsom blames oil companies' greed and price gouging for the state's gas prices, which are about $1.16 above the national average. California's gas tends to be the most or the second most expensive in the country, other than Hawaii, which is a tiny island state in the middle of the Pacific that can't produce its own fuel and has to import everything across the whole ocean. Newsom's own energy commissioner, who he appointed, disagrees with Newsom's assessment that price gouging is actually causing these prices to be high. In this May testimony, he said that no price gouging has been found and that increasing supply in the market, that's a quote, would best protect consumers. That's also a quote.
And how much do Californians pay in taxes and fees on a gallon of gas?
So total taxes and fees add up to about $1.62 to each gallon sold in California. That's more than the difference between gas prices in California and the rest of the country. So of that $1.62 in taxes and fees, only 18 cents is from federal taxes, which means that the rest is just from California.
And you mentioned that the Energy Commission suggests that to help lower prices, California would need to increase the supply. But what stands in the way of that solution?
Building an oil refinery costs at least $5 to $6 billion, or at least that's what Vice Chair Siva Gunda of the California Energy Commission said in May. There are 4 companies refining 90% of the gasoline in the state, and there's only 10 active refineries in California making gasoline. California needs to create its own special blend that's only used in California. There was just a court order finally allowing some refiners from Washington to send a limited amount of refined oil to California. But again, that's not really enough to make a difference when we have such a large state and so few refineries. One of the things Gunda suggested is requiring that we stockpile more gas or we stockpile more oil so that if one of the refineries goes down for maintenance, that we have some supply to hold us over. That does seem to be the cause of single price spikes, but that doesn't really explain the massive gap in pricing, which is largely from taxes and fees imposed by California. Another issue is who's going to want to build a $6 billion oil refinery when California is aiming to ban gasoline cars being sold starting in 2035, with large-scale phase-outs starting to occur even earlier. There's no reason for companies to go and invest this money in building a very expensive facility when the product will be illegal or made to be phased out in a few years.
So has there been any evidence found of collusion or price gouging from these companies that Newsom is blaming?
No. Kelly Ciarto, a state senator, in this May testimony noted that there have been 0 times that price gouging and collusion has been found by the state of California among these handful of oil companies. This is really worth noting that Chevron, which has 2,000 employees in California and operates 2 of the 10 gas-producing refineries in the state, announced that it's moving its headquarters to Houston. That's thousands of jobs that are leaving the state. These are high-paying, corporate, white-collar jobs that California's economy is bleeding like crazy. There's a recent report that came out detailing how since, I believe, 2021, California has lost a net of 50,000 private sector jobs, while public and public sector supported jobs are the only thing growing California's economy. This really isn't sustainable in the long run, especially if California wants to expand the supply of energy so that people are going to pay less at the pump.
And there are, I'm assuming, state as well as national laws against things like colluding about prices, right?
Right. I mean, price gouging laws do exist. If there's an emergency of some kind, you can't just decide to charge extremely high prices for like heating oil if there's like a winter blizzard. There are laws against pricing collusion and cartels operating to keep prices high for a good. We see the federal government crack down very hard on that with very high fines. So it's not really a behavior that companies engage in, especially a very large industry like the oil industry, where the paper trail would be very hard to conceal.
Well, Kenneth, thank you for your insights on this story. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.